I'm Daniel James, and you're listening to 7am. What did Jacqui, Lambie, Pauline Hanson, Lidia Thorpe and David Pocock all have in common? Usually nothing, but they're part of an unlikely group of politicians backing former Senator Rex Patrick in a legal fight with the Albanese government over information the government doesn't want released. At the centre of that fight are documents about potential sites for nuclear waste storage from AUKUS submarines, a bill that could see Patrick forced to pay $150,000, and a warning about what happens when ordinary Australians push too hard for answers. Today, Transparency campaigner Rex Patrick on the case that has united some of Parliament's most unlikely allies. It's Tuesday, August 4. Rex, in May you won a Freedom of Information case which ordered the government to release information on where it will store nuclear waste for Australia's future AUKUS submarines. Now the government is appealing to stop those documents being released. What do you understand is in those documents or what they could reveal?
Well, we know that back in February of 2023, the minister announced that the government was going to do a review into how to select a location for AUKUS nuclear waste.
As part of being a responsible nuclear steward, Australia will take responsibility for the disposal of the nuclear waste which comes from operating nuclear-powered submarines, which is both...
That report was completed in November of 2023. So in December, a month later, I sought access to both the report, but knowing the government might claim that to be cabinet, I then also asked for the documents that fed into that report, so the policy documents that were being sort of built up in background.
The process by which we will determine how that all occurs is a process that we're underway right now and we will complete within 12 months. And to be clear on that, that is not to say in 12 months' time there will be a place, but it is to say within 12 months' time we will identify what the road will be to determining where.
So the report and the documents themselves don't actually mention the location. No location has been selected, but all of the criteria, what the geological site must be, issues such as transportation, security, making sure that the facility is not located on an earthquake zone, those sorts of things. But I know from the hearing that took place and the decision that was made by the Administrative Review Tribunal that it does include at least one location. The tribunal made the point that naming one location doesn't tell you that that's the location the government has chosen. But I think the government's worried that if you name any location, people are going to get upset. Look, the information that I'm seeking has been described by the Administrative Review Tribunal as information that is of significant public interest. I've also just, in the last couple of weeks, had a judge, Justice O'Sullivan, make the same declaration in relation to similar documents. So huge public interest in the disclosure of these sorts of documents so that the public can discuss and scrutinise the government as they work towards finding a place to put AUKUS nuclear waste.
So it's a hot political issue, as anything to do with nuclear waste usually is. Why did the government, beyond that, argue this information should remain secret? What harm did it say would come from releasing it?
Well, I might summarise it as saying that the government wants to control the narrative. Mm-hmm. Those words were talked about in the hearing. They say that if you just release a little bit of it, then people are going to get the wrong impression. If you don't do it in a controlled manner, it's going to create difficulty for the government. But of course, all of those arguments don't stand. So, for example, if you're worried about small amounts of information being misleading, release more. Tell people more. And indeed, the FOI is there to allow you to peer in behind the sort of thick curtains of government offices and just see what's going on.
Why do you think the government's been so secretive about this work?
Well, I think you mentioned the issue. You said it's a hot political issue. I think it's a hot radioactive political issue.
Yeah.
Part of me feels as though if it were not documents related to that topic, maybe the appeal wouldn't be taking place. But the government has appealed on questions of law that they've asked the court to determine, and then the matter will get remitted back to the Administrative Review Tribunal to be dealt with in accordance with law. So it's all very technical stuff, but what it does is put a really big bar in the way of someone like me trying to pursue these sorts of documents. And indeed, if you think about it, I mean, they've taken me to court. They know that I'm not a lawyer. And just imagine someone wins an FOI and the government sends them a notice of appeal. Most people have no idea what to do. When they read the appeal, it says the government is seeking costs against you if they are successful, right? And those costs you get up to about $150,000. That's not an unreasonable estimate.
Yeah, let's talk about that, Rex, because the government isn't just appealing the decision, it's raised the stakes. It's insisting that you pay up to $150,000 to cover its legal costs if you lose the legal fight. What do you make of that decision? How do you reflect on that? Do you take that as a threat?
Well, it's more than a threat because they've actually done the appeal. What is offensive about it is that the information I'm seeking is not information that I'm going to use to make money or have some personal benefit in relation to. It's information where I get to look at perhaps 15 emails, and those emails may or may not have something interesting in them, and the price tag they want to put on that is $150,000. This is a deep-pocketed government bringing a citizen to the federal court, testing and asking the court what the law is, knowing full well that I don't have the capacity to go off and fund lawyers, and I certainly can't risk $150,000 in adverse legal costs. This is a huge chilling effect. The message here is stop at an FOI loss. If you pursue a win, we may take you to court and you may lose your house.
Still to come, why this $150,000 fight has seen political enemies band together. Rex, politicians who are really on the same side about anything are banding together to back you on this, from Pauline Hanson to Jacqui Lambie to Lydia Thorpe and David Pocock. They say the decision to pursue legal costs is a breach of the rules which require the government to act as a model litigant. Can you explain those rules for us?
Well, the model litigant rules basically say that the government shouldn't take advantage of a citizen who simply cannot resource a legal team. So if I were a corporation and I was after documents related to the business that I was engaged in, one might say, well, it's reasonable that the corporation pays legal fees if they're unsuccessful in their endeavour to get a document. We might even suggest that's the case if I was seeking documents to help me win a compensation case, something like that. But in a pure case that involves no pecuniary interest, no financial interest, involves a matter of significant public interest and questions to the court about how the public law works, that is not a case where the government should seek to impose costs.
And what's the government's response to claims of a breach?
Well, they say that it's not a breach. They've said, well, we don't consider it to be a test case. Now, that might be something that gets argued out in the court because the court, just as the government has a responsibility to be fair to citizens, the courts take seriously their role to be fair to citizens, under their constitutional role. So the deal here is that I can't afford the $150,000 I might need to have a lawyer instructing a barrister who might be led by a senior counsel, because that's what the other side may have, which means I'm on my own. And what happens is when I go to court, if I lose, that's when I'll have to pay the Commonwealth's legal costs. And we all know that if you're self-represented, there's a much greater chance of losing. So it's almost like this double whammy that they know I can't get a lawyer, and the chances of winning against silks or KCs and senior counsels, which they may well engage at taxpayers' expense, it will make it extremely difficult for me. And maybe the point here is just to make sure that the documents never get released and the narrative control is maintained.
Okay, I'm sorry. Why can't that report be released again?
The report is a classified report, Senator.
Oh, it's a classified report, but I mean, there's no detail really. So what's so classified with it? I mean, you haven't gone anywhere really with it. And the Minister said it would be released as a part of a social licence. So when is the Minister of Defence going to release it?
Jacqui Lambie says this is the government trying to send a message. What is that message, Rex? And are you worried that this could stop others in the future from pursuing information the government simply doesn't want exposed?
Yeah, it just means that the really sensitive stuff, the government has a means to be able to say, you ain't going to get it, even if the law says that you can, because you never get to test the law properly. And so Senator Lambie has weighed in. She's concerned, and I've spoken to her. This issue is not about Rex Patrick. Okay, I'm old enough and ugly enough to look after myself. The big worry here is the FOI Act is a layman's tool. A senator can ask questions on notice. An Auditor General can demand papers when they're oversight in government. The media can ask questions and use its powers in terms of its ability to influence the public to potentially get answers to information. All the citizen has is FOI. It's a right given to them by the Parliament to be able to participate in democracy and to be able to scrutinise their government. And the government is just putting a huge price tag on that activity, even though the Act says that access to documents should be granted to people in the least costly way. So that the Act actually says that. Yet they're basically saying, well, we're just going to outmuscle you, Mr. Patrick, and anyone else who's watching, pay attention.
And finally, Rex, I mean, how important are freedom of information requests to a robust democracy? I mean, and how important have they become? Because government over the decades seems to me has, of all persuasions, have become more and more secretive. What kind of things wouldn't we know without FOIs?
Oh, look, there's all sorts of stuff. Like I was the person that took Scott Morrison to court over National Cabinet being declared during COVID, and basically then saying, well, we can't see the information and the basis upon which really big decisions like you can't leave your house, you can't cross a border, you can't send your kids to school, how those decisions were being made. So FOI, properly pursued, has opened up National Cabinet. FOI has enabled us to see all sorts of misconduct by officials or unfair play by governments or poorly thought through ideas. FOIs are a critical tool for journalists who want to see what's happening behind the closed doors of government to be able to report and inform the public. They will be looking at this, and in fact, it wasn't just the politicians that have weighed in and written to the Attorney General. So too have some civil society groups, including people like the Human Rights Law Centre, but also some of the journalist organisations, because they understand the implication of this.
Rex Patrick, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Also in the news, day one of radio shock jock Alan Jones's long-awaited trial has kicked off in Sydney, with the court hearing Jones allegedly kissed and touched a Year 12 student who he had invited to his home in the Southern Highlands. The prosecution says Jones met the teenager during a radio interview about the promising young athlete's achievements, later paying for his phone and a $600 a week allowance to help with his training. Jones faces 22 charges related to 6 male complainants. He denies any wrongdoing. And One Nation has finally announced its Victorian leader ahead of the upcoming state election, the party's state president, Warren Pickering. But One Nation's policies and full list of candidates won't be released for another month, just 3 months out from the vote. The announcement was made yesterday in Melbourne, with the ABC, The Age and The Guardian all refused entry. Hanson says she's, quote, not putting up with the spin gotcha moments, so they're banned. I'm Ruby Jones. This is 7am. Thanks for listening.